call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, also known as Hump Day to those who celebrate. Hope everybody's doing well. Pretty fun show, I think, on the docket for today. As always, we'll have some random news and notes and tidbits out there, but we're also going to, complain a little bit here in April about next year's bracketology projections, which we just had by our friend Joe Lunardi. Talk about retention from a perspective other than the roster itself, and we'll see if we can narrow down the list of teams that are still balling with a big budget here as we get a little bit later into the roster building season. The counter gets ready to flip towards May because there might be only a handful of heavy hitters left who can pay up for some of these difference makers that are still available out there. As always, folks, the Pod at the Palace is presented by our friends over at the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas. At this point, you know all about them, right? Vision is essential to your quality of life, and your professional eye care is a must for you and your family. They've got you covered at the Eye Center. Their award-winning eye doctors are board certified and professionally active, yet their patients talk most about how caring and friendly they are. You need glasses or contacts, go see them. You want to get rid of them, go see them. They offer that custom cataract surgery and custom refractive lens exchange surgery inside their clinic location in Fayetteville. They can give you a free screening. Give them a call, 479-442-2020, or check out the website, www.eyecenternwa.com for more info. And if you haven't already done so, make sure that you take advantage and get your hat in the ring for that giveaway that they've got going on their social media pages. The Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas is giving away a pair of Urkers sunglasses. Those things are sharp. Men or women, they've got all kinds of different designs there, and 50 units of Botox as well. That's a lot of value that they're giving away. It's free 99. All you have to do is go like, tag, and follow two places, the Eye Center Fayetteville and Injector Olivia NWA on their Instagram pages to get your hat thrown in the ring. The winner will be announced on May the 9th. All right, let's get into it. Let's take a little bit of a spin here around the landscape of college basketball, talk about a few things that are going on. I would say things that might not directly involve Arkansas, but could indirectly involve them a little bit down the line. But the first thing I want to do, and this is directly involving Arkansas, I know everybody saw Adu Thero's Instagram post the other day, right? Which was very, very cool. It just shows, his love for Arkansas and what it meant to him to be a Razorback. Very cool. I liked it. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, these guys are hired mercenaries and they don't love the logo, man. They're just here to cash a check or whatever. And I think everybody pretty much realized by the end of the year that was fake news, right? It absolutely meant something to him. But Adu was the one guy that it really felt like from start to finish through exhibitions to the very end of the year where he tried to come back, how much it meant to him. And him showing his respects there with that post that he made with all those pictures and memories that he had, in Fayetteville and wearing that Razorback jersey, I thought was very, very cool. Naturally, it was just cryptic enough to get people all riled up about the potential for a return there. And it's natural, to feel that way when you see it. What is he doing? Has he not moved on? Is he reminiscing? Is he thinking about it? For what it's worth, I checked in just to see if that was even on the table. First of all, if he wanted to come back to school, because you never know with agents and representation and all that, what qualifies or disqualifies you for that. It's not just as simple as making a social media post and saying, I'm foregoing my college eligibility or I'm maintaining my college eligibility. It's about your representation. Is it NCAA qualified? Do you have that option? Whatever. Could Adu return to college if he chose to? As I am told, yes. If he did return to college, would it be at Arkansas? The answer to that is also yes, because he didn't do like Boogie or some of these other guys and enter the transfer portal beforehand. Now, does anyone in that building at Arkansas have any expectation that that is something that could happen or is going to happen? Unfortunately, no. Right. And I think we kind of knew that going into it. Maybe you get your hopes up a little bit. Like, it's been a quiet off season. What's really going on here? But I don't see that changing unless some new circumstances arose that we don't know about, or his stock just completely bottomed out for some reason. I think that's just kind of, where this thing is headed. And kudos to him for a great career as a Hog. Now, if he woke up tomorrow and changed his mind or something, we'd be all for that, wouldn't we? Get a guy like that back. But he's draft bound if he has his way about it here. And speaking of the draft, did you guys see some of the numbers that were thrown out there? Only in the early entry deadline has come and gone now. Only 106 players entered the NBA draft ahead of the deadline. And so there's roughly 60 draft picks, right? And 106 players entered. For reference, it was 195 last year. So almost cut in half. And this is the lowest number of early entrants since 2015. So in the last decade, just a few years ago in 2021, there were 363. And that's crazy. And there's a few reasons for that. One, because that COVID year, that freebie year of 2020, 2021 is just about phased out. Like that's an entire class less of guys who have the potential to enter. Right. So that's automatically going to knock it down a little bit. The other part of it is NIL. You know, it's really giving people a decision to make. And if you remember the conversation we had yesterday about like draft slot salaries versus NIL commands, boy, if you're not a lock for not even the first round, in some cases, like a top 25 level pick, there are reasons to really consider coming back to school. But, on one hand, I think that's great for college basketball because it means the sport it's retaining a lot more of its talent, right? It's a better product that's on the floor because of this. And I would say on the other hand, if you're doing the devil's advocate thing or whatever, or the to be fair argument, does a smaller pool of competition keep guys more on the hook to stay in? You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm in a pool with 363 guys or whatever, it might be easier for me to see all that competition and be like, you know what, man, I could make plenty of cash in college. I'll deal with this next year. Right? I think it's a lot easier to be competing with 100 guys than 300. Do the math, right? In terms of those coveted slots there. So, and I also say this, like the top end guys aren't changing regardless. They are who they are. But that pool of people that you're competing with, whether it's at the combine or in these workouts, trying to get guarantees or whatever, players who might not be quite as good as you, but have a similar skill set that will come for cheaper or agree to something that you won't. There's just fewer guys like that. So at least something to watch with these fringe guys that we are hoping come back to college in the next few weeks here. You know what I mean? What else? Some movement at the top, actually. We're talking about these guys, coming back to school or whatever. There have been some portal commitments of note. And now what I think we have to consider is how these commitments impact what Arkansas could do moving forward. We were just talking about the competition among draft picks with that, that huge pool of guys that you're competing with versus a trimmed down one. Well, you're kind of looking at the same situation now across the college basketball landscape for these teams filling out their roster. And there's a finite amount of really good players out there who may or may not be available depending on what they decide here or anywhere. If you're talking international prospects, whatever, at this point, as we're getting ready to flip to May, with every commitment that comes and goes, it's less money that these programs have. So who are the heavy hitters? Who are the big spenders that Arkansas theoretically would have to compete with? So, for example, Andre Stojakovic, who we saw in the Bahamas when he played for Stanford. He was a freshman. Then he went to Cal, had a big year, hit the portal, was immediately a top 10 guy in the portal. He committed, I hate this phrase, but as expected, to Illinois, which, man, it's literally just it's like an Adriatic League team over there. It's unbelievable. They'll start probably Kylan Boswell and then 4 international players, but it's crazy. They got both Z's, they got 2 international guys, and then they got Stojakovic, who's, he grew up in America and everything, but obviously his dad, Peja, there's a lot of international ties there. But at any rate, what does that do? Well, if you're looking at Illinois now and their roster, first, how much money have they spent to put this thing together? And then second, they were a presumed contender, a theoretical fit for Jameer Watkins. Don't know that that's the case now. Him and Stojakovic play the exact same position. And does Watkins really fit what they're trying to build over there with this unique roster that they're putting together? I'm not so sure. So you think about that, and it's almost like, all right, can we mark them off the list of teams that you'd have to worry about, right? Cedric Coward, the Washington State guard, who's again also in the draft, but was being recruited heavily by a bunch of teams, came down to Duke and Alabama. He chooses Duke. Now, he's still going through the draft process, so he could ultimately decide, hey, I'm going to stay in, and he could be a first round pick. So it's not crazy to think that. But you look at that and you think, okay, well, if he does go to Duke, where are they at with their roster now? Like, are they really going to be in the market for another wing? No, they wouldn't be. Maybe they need a backup big man behind Malik Brown and Gumba, and then they're done. And then what does Bama do? Well, now they probably are the favorites for a Marfo with Rylan Griffin, unless he goes to Texas A&M, but you get him back, and then they would probably be out of the market for the most part as well in terms of adding more wings. So again, like, you're thinking about the competition there. UConn putting together a pretty good squad there. Are they done in the portal? Or are they not? Well, Alex Caravan, who could have easily gone to the draft and probably been selected, but maybe a second round guy, he's going back. So they're going to have to pay up to get him, and that takes up a spot. So they're probably now out of the market, at least the big fish market. Florida, you look at them and it's like, all right, they lost their 3 starting guards from the national title team. Aberdeen bolts for Kentucky out of nowhere. And what are they going to do? Well, they went and got Xavier Lee out of Princeton, the point guard. So that's one spot that you filled. They went and got another guard from, oh man, where is that kid from? I don't remember. But they went and got another guard. So they picked up a couple guys. Now all eyes are on Florida with Desmond Claude out of USC. If you pay up for him, then, would you really be in the big spending market for some of the other guys? Desmond Claude, one of the top 10 available transfers as well, who is not in the NBA draft, I don't believe. So that's one. I've heard their name connected to Boogie Flan, who obviously we're keeping an eye on if he decides to stay in the draft or not. But, that's another team theoretically coming off a national title that's looking to reload that, might be in the process of adding their second big money guard here at some point. So my thought is, all right, who has money to spend with Arkansas if we get to the point where a good handful of these dudes come available, or just in general, as you look to round out the roster? I think North Carolina seems very motivated and wealthy here late in the game. And they made some moves and got some guys. I love the VSAR pickup for them. They've obviously got Caleb Wilson coming in. Caleb Wilson is not that kid's name. The freshman that they have coming in there. So they've done some good things. They got a nice point guard from Colorado State who's in there, but they need to do more. And then they wound up losing Ian Jackson, and they wound up losing very late in the game Drake Powell to the NBA, a guy that they thought that they were going to have back. So I know that their fan base at least really likes the idea of Jameer Watkins. They're probably going to have money to spend. Van Allen Lubin, by the way, also in the portal right now. And the thought process was that he would eventually opt to return and come back, but it hasn't happened yet. So if that was the case, what are you waiting on, right? So they might be in the market there and they like him, but they also haven't been a team that's been winning or engaging in a lot of bidding wars. Kansas, I think, probably still has a little bit of work to do. We know that they're going to be in on that Darion Williams sweepstakes if he does opt to come out of the draft. So Bill Self has still got money. It seems like Texas Tech and BYU are programs who have infinite money, right? Ole Miss is another one. It feels like Ole Miss has just been begging to spend. They've been in on a lot of guys, or at least on lists of finalists or lists of teams who are engaged. Like they were on the Chad Baker-Mazara thing, the Jaron Pierre thing. Now they're in on the PJ Haggerty deal. So it looks like they're really trying to pay up or add a high-level guard. But they did just go out into the European ranks and pick somebody up earlier on Tuesday. Are they done? Do they need more? I'm not really sure where they stand on that, but it seems like they might be positioned to strike if the opportunity presents itself. Baylor could probably use a little more juice. I mean, they're replacing literally their entire roster, and they've added a bunch of guys, but I imagine they've still got the funds to do more. Tennessee lost a lot. They might be tapped out, though, after adding Nate Ament. We know what that price tag looked like. Louisville, a team that was also connected. They were connected a little bit to Chad Baker-Mazara, to Jameer Watkins. They can't have that much money left. Kentucky's done, right? But then I think, St. John's, they've got to be pretty much done, I would think, at this point. They've done a lot of heavy spending. Michigan as well. Although if Yaxel winds up sticking to the draft, they'll have a little bit of money to play with if they wanted to add a guard. But they have other restraints with that admissions process that they deal with over there. And so outside of those, I mean, I'm thinking, all the schools with new coaches and big roster rebuilds probably still have wiggle room. Indiana would be one, although they're getting close. West Virginia, Maryland. Shout out to Buzz Williams, by the way, for getting Darius Adams, the top 20 freshman decommit from UConn. He got that commitment today, so good work on his part. Texas A&M, where he left, they've still got an entire roster that they have to build. And who have they really gotten of note? Mackenzie Mbako and who? I'm still thinking, right? Kevin Willard still needs some bodies over at Villanova. So, it's kind of a select number of Kansas State would be another one. A select number of programs who probably have medium to big spending capacity left once we get to the end game here. Now, in fairness, I'm assuming that Arkansas has or is willing to spend here, because the truth is they haven't yet. They just haven't. Now, don't twist my words here. Arkansas has plenty of money on the payroll. That's not what I'm saying. Between 8-9 million, based on what I've been told, right? It costs to retain guys. Like, you didn't get the guys that are coming back to play for you for the same amount that you paid them last year. That's not how it works. It costs of doing business. It costs to get your new guys here for sure. Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle didn't come for free. Your 5-star freshman didn't come for free. And so I'm not saying they haven't spent any money at all. That's not what I'm getting at. But have they made that huge splash? I mean, think about last year. It felt like Jonas and Nelly were among the highest paid guys in the portal cycle. Maybe not on Coleman Hawkins and great Osabor level, but they were taken care of. We joke sometimes about having that, FU money or the funny money or whatever. And Arkansas just hasn't flexed that yet. Right? It doesn't mean they won't to round this thing out. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but just looking at the last several weeks here, they haven't participated in any bidding wars for guys. And they passed on anyone who has a high asking price that they don't want to mess with in those negotiations. They liked Morez Johnson, and they didn't want to go higher. And so he winds up going to Michigan. Same thing with Keyshawn Hall. Arkansas was a finalist there. As I understand it, they were really pitching him on being a key cog in the operation. They liked him. Auburn comes in with some big time money. Hey, man, good luck to you. Right? So, Lamar Wilkerson, whether or not Arkansas was ever really, really invested into that recruitment or not, is probably up for debate. But saw what he wound up getting at Indiana. There ain't no way that Arkansas is going to wind up going that route. So, at the end of the day, it's a good sign that I think there are fewer teams who could theoretically compete with you for the big spending guys here that to round this out. But you also have to ask yourself, like, would Arkansas be willing to throw hypothetical $3 million at Jameer Watkins to make sure he stays out of the draft? I would. You would. It ain't my money, but we'll have to wait and see. Because remember, Arkansas is in a little bit of a different spot. They're in a good position with the roster that they have, but they're not desperate like a few other of these teams that we just got done talking about might be at this point. Especially, as we assume, let's assume Carter Knox coming back, then Arkansas can be really selective, really picky about what they do here. I think a Jameer Watkins pickup would be electric. But if they went and got a backup 4 and a sharpshooter for the rotation, I'd be super, super bullish on this group still. And they could do that without having to break the piggy bank. And it's not a matter of maybe not being able to do it, but if you really think about it and you started, doing the math in your head here, I'm not saying that Arkansas has, 8 guys on the rotation and they're all making $1 million. It's all exactly the same, but there's not a huge difference in any of these guys, to my knowledge here. Everybody's kind of in that same ballpark. So there's not the one dude in the locker room that's making twice as much money as everybody else that could create a little bit of animosity. It doesn't always do that, but it can. Right. And it also opens up the whole deal. And you saw this with Auburn and Chad Baker-Mazara. Keyshawn Hall gets north of $2 million, and Chad Baker-Mazara is a returner, and he walks in there and goes, whoa, I'm getting like half of this. What is this all about? Is he better than me? Has he done this in this uniform? That's the kind of stuff that you want to avoid. Right. So would Arkansas be willing to make that move? I hope so. But either way, I think they're going to round out this roster in good fashion. And then, like, who would even be out there worth spending big money? Like, who are the trophy bucks remaining? It's the same guys. RJ Lewis, probably going to stay in the draft. Darion Williams, not connected to Arkansas. Jameer Watkins makes a lot of sense. We'll see what his market winds up looking like should he choose to come back. PJ Haggerty, not happening. And then Boogie Fland. Right? Outside of that, it's role guys. It's all dependent on if they choose to come back to school as well. And then it's just filling out with the next tier, which are good players, but not stars in the portal that you're going to have to get into crazy bidding wars for. Or it's international guys, which there's still plenty of potential difference makers in those waters. With every passing day, I get more intrigued by the potential there. Or you pray for that 5th year ruling to go through. All right. We'll see what it looks like. Interesting stuff, though. Interesting stuff. Let's get in our vibe check presented by Basis Health, who's just changing the game in ways of healthcare, providing the mobile medical visits. Right? It's so cool. It's so unique. They just come see you at the comfort of your own home. You don't have to mess with the hassle of making those doctor's appointments. Getting over there, filling out the paperwork, sitting in the waiting room. Sometimes that stresses people out. You ever heard of white coat syndrome? I get it every time I walk in there. My blood pressure is way higher when I go see the doctor than if I check it at Harps or something. I can guarantee you that. You can avoid all that stuff. A doctor will come to you, to your home, for urgent care, primary care, IV hydration, and more. Very cool. Basis Health, they are here for you when and where you need them the most. Check them out, basishealth.org today to learn a little bit more. For our vibe check, how do you feel about Joe Lunardi's bracketology? It comes out less than a month after last season ended, and I already have beef with him. It didn't take long. It's funny, and it's not for the reasons that you would think, but we're going to have fun with this anyway. It's just that time of the year. We talk about things like this, right? A few things that jumped out looking at it. 1, 13 SEC schools. There were 14 last year. Feels about right. Although the league will look much different next season, but sorry to South Carolina, LSU, and Texas A&M. For stinking it up in April. There were the 3 teams that weren't in the field there. And I think A&M was on the first 4 out or whatever. Arkansas, he has in as a 5 seed. So quite a bit of improvement from last year. You were a 10 seed, not quite an elite status. I've got to admit, guys, based on the current construction of the roster, I think I actually agree with the man here. It feels about right to me. Unless they address the shooting and add a little bit more depth there, and I imagine they will before it's all said and done. But right now, I would have a hard time putting Arkansas in that 1, 2, 3 seed range, personally. Now, they're about one piece away from me jumping them up there and telling you guys to buy your tickets for Indy, right? But that's kind of where I'm at. Room to move up a few seed lines, I think, based on how the roster rounds out here. But 5 right now, I think it's probably fair. The first thing I don't like is the first round matchup, because you got Arkansas as the 5 seed playing the 12 seed Yale. Listen, we talked a little bit about this on Inside Arkansas Live, but Cal, he shook off some of those demons, right? Got to the Sweet 16 last year. He beat a couple Hall of Famers on the way there, but that does not mean that I suddenly just feel great about facing an upset-minded Ivy League school with a bunch of exciting whites that can knock down a bunch of threes in the round of 64. No, I want to see it. Yale, they beat Auburn in the first round a couple years ago. They pushed Texas A&M last season. I would rather not see them, if I'm being honest. But whatever. My biggest beef, though, is the location. I mean, this would be the absolute worst case scenario on a year where you have first weekend sites that include Oklahoma City. Could you imagine that if Arkansas played in Oklahoma City in the NCAA tournament? I mean, come on. It would be Bud Walton 2.0. It would be nuts. St. Louis, same thing. Easy drive. Could be a day trip for people if they wanted to be. It would be electric. You got places like that. You got Greenville. You got Tampa. Nope. Lunardi in his first projection, he's sending Arkansas to Portland. We've been to Buffalo. We've been to San Francisco twice. We've been to Providence. Why not add Portland to the list? In the far northwest corner of the country, that's incredibly difficult to get to. You know what I mean? Like one of these days, Razorback fans will be able to travel to the NCAA tournament games again without completely draining their life savings to have to do it. I would prefer not to go to Portland. I've been to Portland before. It's cool. It's a funky town. Really cool. But we've done the coast-to-coast travel. Let's have one of those years where you get one of those really top seeds and have a little bit of preferential treatment on where they send you. Let's get a little bit closer this coming year. Always helps. Have that home crowd advantage as you try to make a run to the Final Four. Let's do that. And they also have Arkansas in Portland, but as part of the West region. Again, which means second weekend instead of, Chicago or potentially Houston, which I think would be a good one for Arkansas. They would go from Portland to San Jose. I can feel John Neighbors' anxiety from here with the flights and the luggage and the travel and everything else. He's rubbing his temples right now. Save that man from this, will you? Oh, goodness. By the way, 13 teams from the SEC, 12 from the Big 10, 8 from the Big 12, and 5 from the ACC. You see that? 5 from the ACC. Did you guys see the league commissioner in the ACC is considering playing fewer conference games? Like going down from 20 to 18 to give the league a better chance to build at large resumes, to get more teams into the NCAA tournament. First of all, this is exactly the opposite of what the SEC did about a decade ago when that league sucked. Remember? Wasn't great, the SEC. And the memorandum that was put forward was, hey, maybe you guys should just start investing into basketball if you want to get better. Get better facilities, build better rosters, get better coaches in the league. They did all that. Look at the league now. It's coming off the best season in a conference's history. All the ACC is doing here is admitting that it stinks as a basketball league now, and it shouldn't have expanded with bottom feeders only. That's watering down the competition over there. They did that. They made this choice. And you really want to play 2 fewer conference games and do what? Play more against the SEC that embarrassed you last season? Is that really going to help your case to get more teams in there? Just having more opportunities to play better teams out of league play doesn't mean you're going to win the games, which you did at a historically poor pace this past season. No, what you need is better basketball teams over there. An historically great conference. It kind of irritates me that it's dropped off as much as it has. And I can be an SEC homer and everything, but like the ACC, that's good ball. I used to love watching the ACC. It stinks now. It's Duke and then everybody else. Shout out to Pat Kelsey for making Louisville relevant again, and Clemson of all programs over there having some consistency. But what the league needs is North Carolina to be North Carolina again. It needs Will Wade to succeed at North Carolina State. It needs Virginia to get back to where it was just a few years ago. It needs Syracuse to be Syracuse. I mean, when's the last time Syracuse went to the NCAA tournament? This is a great program. Final Four contender. It felt like year in and year out for a long, long time. The talent in that league just has to get better. The product has to get better. Playing fewer games is not, it's not going to answer the questions that you have there. It's beta behavior. Anyway. All right. Let's wrap up here today with our heavy hitters segment presented by HD Roofing and Construction, which Garrett, by the way, he's coming tomorrow to check on my roof after yet another round of hell a couple days ago. It's been storming all day today again. The winds are heavy again. I got to be honest, I'm looking forward to the peace of mind that comes with a free inspection. And also of knowing what you're getting with HD, which is professionalism, top quality materials and expert installation to keep your home safe and protected. When the weather outside is unpredictable, you know that HD Roofing and Construction is as reliable as it gets. And I think for the heavy hitter today, and I wanted to throw this out there and see what you guys think about it. I'm sure BBN's going to love this. I'm going with John Calipari again, and we're back on the retention train as we talk about some of this stuff. You know, returning a healthy amount of players from a Sweet 16 team, always a good thing. We've talked about that a lot. And we'll do some comparison type stuff here in the next couple of days to really quantify just how good of a thing this is for Arkansas. I think that's especially true when it includes the guys who stayed healthy and were constants for you all season. But what I want to bring up here is in closing, and there's still time for this to change, obviously. It's April 30th, but he's kept his staff intact as well to this point. Now, folks could debate all day whether or not that is a good thing, but do you not feel quite a bit better about Cal's staff right now than you did last offseason or at the beginning of the year with all the things that you heard? I think it actually went quite a bit better than we were led to believe it would. And honestly, most people, I feel like they were, for the most part, okay with the guys that he had. They just wanted an offensive coordinator to come in and modernize things. But I'm less concerned about that, honestly, after Cal just kind of let the chalk talk this year. He still got it. And with so many pieces back with that continuity and everything, you would just expect organically your offense to be improved next year in terms of install and understanding and schemes and concepts and being able to get a little bit deeper earlier on. Also, he still has a vacant assistant seat on his bench open if he felt compelled to add someone anyway. So having anybody back is not stopping him or preventing him from doing that. But he kept Miami and Jai Lucas away from Bruiser Flint, which was something that there was some smoke to that fire now, or some fire to that smoke, I guess would be the better way to say it, in terms of him potentially going over there and joining him. And it didn't happen. So Bruiser back, Chin Coleman's still around, which he grew on me tremendously during the year. And if you watch that Vice documentary, I think you see how involved he is. And he's got some vibes coordinator to him in terms of player relationships there, but personnel report guy, scouting guy, seems like he does quite a bit for him there. Ronnie Brewer and Tyler Eulis, as far as I can tell, are not going anywhere. Both guys who I think are maybe undervalued and not talked about enough with this staff. I know I've mentioned it several times. Maybe, just maybe, they'll get Kenny Payne an actual room to work with instead of two guys and some GAs. Because I would love to, I'm excited to see what he can do with Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle and, another year with TB. But wouldn't it be cool to see him actually, the big man whisperer to whisper to a big man that he could develop, a young guy, develop him and see if you can turn him into something special. I'd be all for that. It'd be crazy to me if we got to 2 seasons with Kenny Payne, who's known as the developer of big men, without giving him an opportunity to actually develop big men. Could we see that? I think that'd be pretty cool. But what do you guys think about that? Because I do think there's something to be said for continuity, and that doesn't just mean retention of your players. It's the familiarity of the staff, guys knowing their roles, what they're doing at practice, what their responsibilities are on game day and in preparation, the familiarity that the players have. And it's one thing for new guys to come in and join the fray, and it's like, oh, well, you can just follow DJ Wagner's lead and everything. But guys like DJ Wagner can also tell them, like, hey, you're struggling with this, you need this, go see Eulis. That's your guy. Go see Brew. That's the man you want to talk to. Oh, no, Chin's good for this. That stuff matters, and it gives you a level of comfort there, especially when it was this coaching staff that recruited all these new guys coming in. Sometimes what you see is, these assistants spend all this time recruiting you and developing that relationship and the trust, and the family knows them, and then they leave. And they get other jobs, or it's head jobs, or go be an assistant somewhere else, or try the NBA or whatever, and then it kind of resets things. And so far, and again, knock on wood, if you're in the camp that wants to keep all these guys around, not going to be an issue for Arkansas there. So I think that they're going to start much further along when the team moves on to campus in a month because of all this retention, certainly than they did this time a year ago. And maybe, just maybe, then you can avoid the maddening, frustrating start that they got off to. So we'll see. But hey, that'll do it for today, everybody. Appreciate you all for tuning in and listening. As always, make sure you get subscribed, or you need to get subscribed to the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel. We're closing in on that 10,000 subscriber mark, and we're really excited about that. So if you haven't done so, just click the button. That's all you got to do. It'll cost you anything. We're free 99 over here. And also find us where you find your podcast. If you like to listen on your commute or whatever, you can find the Pod at the Palace, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. We're there for you. So going to get out of here. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow, 6 a.m. As always, y'all have a good day. We'll see you next time. It's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas, the Pod at the Palace.